the north to the south, young and old, coloring the world around you. Our motherland is called from the diaspora to the motherland. It is time to build. Saddle up your horses, it is time to ride. Africa, 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 Africa. Mother Earth is calling from east to the west, from the north to the south, young and old, coloring the world around you. Our motherland is called.
Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie famously called the danger of a single story that is often used as a narrative for Africa.
As George Kimball once put it, the only thing dark about Africa is our ignorance of it. Despite real political progress, technological advancements, and economic growth, much of the Western media still paints the old colonial narratives and images of Africa as helpless, war-torn, poverty-stricken, disease-filled, and corrupt.
So, as you have just heard from the two beautiful speeches, let us begin to set the record straight with facts. Because we are the ones that have to change our narrative, and we are the ones that have to tell our story.
That's right.
Africa is home to roughly 1.4 billion people across 54 nations with a combined GDP of 3.4 trillion. It is home to the largest free trade area of the world.
Africa is known as the motherland and the cradle of humanity, the birthplace of our human species. We rarely associate Africa with engineering, yet the Pyramid of Giza were built centuries before any other pyramids on Earth. We rarely associate and consider the fact that Mansa Musa, king of the Mali Empire, believed to be the wealthiest person who ever lived. When he made his famous pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, he traveled with an entourage of 10,000 people and more than 300 pounds of gold. He gave away so much of the gold that the price of gold in Egypt stayed depressed for the next 12 years.
African societies have too often been misrepresented in Western media, especially by the older films like the Tarzan series, which depict the continent as a vast, untamed jungle inhabited by uncivilized or uneducated people. This portrayal continues to contribute to the harmful myth that Africa is a dark continent. Well, this is my favorite, as all of you have known, I've always used this. Harvard University, the first university in the Western world, was founded in 1638. I repeat, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world is Harvard. It was founded in 1638. Can anybody guess when the first university was founded in Africa?
No.
Hey, you're from the continent of Europe.
Was a medical.
Ladies and gentlemen, in 859 CE, according to UNESCO and the Guinness World Record, they have recognized how Kayawin in Fez, Morocco, as the oldest continuous operating. If you go to Fez, it's still there. Degree-granting university in the world, and also the oldest university in sub-Saharan Africa. The Sankore Mosque University was founded 1100 in Timbuktu, Mali. More than 5-6 million
Most important note there for African women. That first university that was founded in Paris was founded by a woman. These institutions are living proof of Africa's rich intellectual heritage and its century-long contribution to global scholarships. They educated generations of scholars in law, theology, mathematics, astronomy, and linguistics. The powerful reminder of the role Africa has played in advancing knowledge and innovation throughout history.
This is very personal to me. I'm from Benin City, in the Edo State of Nigeria. In 1691, when the Portuguese ship captain Lawrence Pinto visited, he wrote this in his log. Great Benin, where the king resides, is larger than the entire city of Lisbon. All the streets run in straight and far as the eye can see. The city is wealthy and industrious. It is so well governed that theft was unknown, and the people live in such security that they have no doors to their homes.
Now, if I ask you all to name the largest church in the world, you want to think of it as being placed in what region of the world?
Rome.
Interesting.
Yeah,
We have to equalize our minds.
I know.
In fact, according to the Guinness World Record, it is the Basilica of Our Lady of Peace in Yamoussoukro, Cote d'Ivoire. And this is the marvelous church. When at a time in which now we are so used to using cell and doing money transfers via our cell phones, Kenya have been doing that for a while. The M-Pesa launched in 2007, which means money is Swahili. Through Vodafone and its payment partner, Safaricom, it began as a simple way to send money by phone, and made into billing of payments in stores and things of that nature. International remittances, even loans and overdraft facilities that many Kenyans use, particularly Kenyan women farmers who were able to sell their goods as well. But here in the United States, long before Kenya was doing this online transfer via phone, Zelle became inactive here in the US in 2017. So Africans are innovating and innovating in many different ways.
The full decade.
Yes, indeed.
Because and we were so happy that we had Zelle. Because we've been using it for 10 years. So, yes, so Dr. Cooper, when you're in Ghana, make sure you send me the present. Zelle does not work in Africa. As you heard from Her Excellency about Africans doing so well in sports, we just want to re-emphasize that from the speed and courage of Jesse Owens, who shattered world records and dismantled racist myth in the 1936 Olympics, Jackie Robinson, who broke baseball's color barrier, and Kenya's Sebastian Sawe, who in 2026 became the first person to officially run the marathon under 2 hours.
Though they competed in different eras, sports, and circumstances, they share the same story of resilience, determination, and achievement. Their accomplishments are far beyond athletics, proving that talent, courage, and perseverance can break barriers, open doors, and inspire generations. From Olympian tracks to baseball diamonds and to the World Cup, from marathon pauses to NFL championship fields, people of African heritage continue to set new standards of excellence.
And I can tell you that without the contribution of Africans in the diaspora and African Americans, the NFL and the NBA will be able to continue.
You gotta go.
So we can go on and on and on and on and on. This is just to say, as Her Excellency said, there is nothing we should be ashamed about our heritage, our culture. We should be the ones propagating and correcting people when they say those negative and ignorant things. So I know you are already familiar with most of this fact, and this is why we use this platform to push back against the entire and negative narrative about the African continent.
So, what is Global Africa? The Pan-African movement of the 1920s grew into the African Renaissance of the 1990s, which has now become Global Africa. Global Africa describes Africa's interconnectedness with the rest of the world, its people, economies, cultures, and influence beyond the continent. It speaks to Africa's role in global affairs, trade, innovations, diplomacy, and it also contributes to the African diaspora in shaping cultural and economic exchanges worldwide.
And so Africa Zindan has been pushing the narrative and the role in helping us to advance Global Africa. The first Global Africa Summit was held in 2026 in Barbados. The second one, which was the first one I attended in 2003, was in 2003 it was in Jordan, Guyana. The first one I attended was
in Barbados.
The 31st African annual meeting and third Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum took place in Nassau, the Bahamas, in 2024. That same month, the bank launched the Africa Diaspora Center in New York in partnership with the Africa Center, a deliberate step to engage the diaspora. In 2025, Africa Exempt and the government of Grenada hosted the fourth forum active in 2025 in St. George's, Grenada, in July 29th and 28th as well. And the fifth forum, active 2026, will be held in Bazate and St. Kitts and Nevis at the Marriott Resort and Royal Beach Casino in July 2029 to the 2021st.
So thank you for your patience and indulgence. We would now like to begin our first phase of our symposium, which is to commemorate Africa Day, celebrated each year by the African Union and the United Nations on the 25th of May. The Pan-African movement was dedicated to winning independence for many African nations, and as you will hear from our very first speaker, he will take us through the role of leaders like Jomo Kenyatta, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Henry Sylvester, William W.E.B. Du Bois, and of course, Patrice Lumumba, Julius Nyerere, and Kwame Nkrumah.
In July 2002, the African Union was established in South Africa to succeed the OAU, which is the Organization of African Union, with headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Importantly, the AU's charter recognized the sixth region, the African diaspora, people of African origin living outside the continent, regardless of citizenship or nationality.
So the AU also created the diaspora, civil society, engagement division to serve as a focal point. And I really want to emphasize this. The African Union recognizes us in the diaspora to have a place at the table, to engage with them and have positive and direct collaboration with the African Union. So this is the platform that we are using today as part of the sixth region of the African Union.
Commemorating the 63rd years of Pan-African progress. Our first subject matter expert speaker is a renowned professor and historian, known both locally and here at home, locally in Miami. He is the Director of Graduate Studies and Associate Director of the Center for Global Black Studies in the College of Arts and Science at the University of Miami. Please join hands in welcoming Professor Edwin Abaka.
I would like to share a few words from the great Pan-Africanist Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in the build-up to the formation of the Organization of African Unity with you. He says, and I quote, "Unite we must, without necessarily sacrificing our sovereignties, big or small. We can have and afford a political union based on defense, foreign affairs, and diplomacy, and a common citizenship, an African currency, an African monetary zone, and an African central bank. We must unite in order to achieve the full liberation of our continent. We need a common defense system with an African high command to ensure the stability and security of Africa."
From vision to venture, from courage to capital, from the diaspora to the continent.
Dr. Gideon, now some of the dance of Cameroon. No, say it, Makosa. DJ, do this thing again. Doctor.
Africa rising tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Awesome, awesome. Let me see, I'm not used to this last thing like this. But Honorable Shamika El-Hati, the Honorable Judge Hamilton, Commissioner Albert Cheswan, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. My name is Dr. Martin Kwende, and I am an African born in Cameroon. I went to college in England. I'm a PhD in marine engineering. I used to work in medical space. I used to make things between people. Brings me into space making sense. I did that for about 20 years. And in 2019, I made a couple of friends from Ghana. And we decided that we needed to do something or make an impact on the continent. So we decided to start a company called Global Impact Accelerator Corporation to basically coach entrepreneurs from Africa.
I'm very proud to be an African. Okay, that's why I'm here today in front of you, so as I can present Africa and talk a little bit about how Morocco gave an example as a leader in the African continent.
I want to begin the story of Africa Reimagined 2060 with a simple question. When you think about Africa in 2060, what do you see?
There is an African proverb that says, until the lion learns to tell its story, the tail of the hunt glorifies the hunter. Dignitaries, VIPs, ladies and gentlemen, if you analyze that proverb, you will discover that you and I, we are the lion. The lion of the jungle, but yet we can't tell our story. In the meantime, the hunter is getting away with murder, saying everything and getting away with it. We should be the ones to tell our story.
I'm going to turn this conversation now into really understanding Africa and the Fifth Industrial Revolution. Okay, so now I'd like to turn our attention into Africa and the Fifth Industrial Revolution, addressing this to Dr. Siegel. And just for we have some youth in here, in case you don't know, let's do a little quick history lesson before I address the question to you, ma'am. The first Industrial Revolution was in the late 1700s and 1800s. Steam power, mechanization, factories, roads. Second Industrial Revolution, late 1800s, early 1900s. Electricity, mass production, assembly lines, steel, manufacturing. Third industrial revolution, 1950s, the 2000s. All right, we're getting into computers, electronics, internet, automation. The fourth industrial revolution we're in right now, people. Artificial intelligence, robotics, big data, internet, blockchain, autonomous vehicles, biotechnology, cloud computing. The fifth industrial revolution is transitioning now as soon as 2030. Instead of replacing humans, technology works with humans. Some industry leaders, including projections associated with companies such as Bank of America and Tesla, envision production reaching around 1 million humanoid units annually by 2030. So here's our question to Dr. Siebel. Dr. Siebel, with the rise of AI, digital transformation, and the fifth industrial revolution, Africa has a unique opportunity to leapfrog traditional development pathways. How can African nations and the global African diaspora work together, ma'am, to transform the continent from a consumer of technology into a creator of innovation? And what must happen today for Africa to emerge as a leading economic and technology superpower for decades ahead?
Thank you very much. There are 4 points that I would like to share. The first point is the workforce development. People. 170 million strong. That is what African diaspora is globally. Imagine we come together to transform not just us, but also the workforce on the ground, which is going to power the entire world. Many people still go to university in Africa, spend 5 years, come out obsolete. They go to study things like medicine. It is true, medicine is almost getting obsolete. If you know people going to universities, encourage them to study cyber security. That is why they go to the Europe first before coming back. Because the systems and infrastructure to move the items from Nigeria to Kenya, the systems are not there.
So to encourage the younger generations to make, I would say, better decisions than what the previous generation did, because let's be honest, that's where we are today. We need to think differently. Again, we go back to this idea of the book that I wrote around changing the mindset of people to understand where they come from. That was the first thing, the first aspect. There is an aspect of soft skills that is extremely important. We have a lot of people that are brilliant with the development of YouTube in Africa. We find everybody in the street being able to do everything in Africa. There's so much inventivity. One day I had an issue with my car and I went in the street and I asked someone, okay, so can you please change the tire to fix it? And they sent me behind the police in the street, where someone came with the tools to actually lift my car in the middle of the street. So in terms of inventivity, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of skills, we have what it takes. In terms of soft skills, we cannot really create value at the moment. We need to teach the young generation how to create value, how to provide, to tell the story yet on the previous person that talks about telling a story. This is something that is important. And
if you could leave this audience with one call to action regarding Africa's economic future, what would it be, sir?
There's an IPO going on right now. That's going to start in September in Nigeria. My Dangote Industries. If there's anything that I can tell anybody, especially from the diaspora, buy shares in that IPO.
And I said,
want to introduce you to the new owner here. This is Rohan Mali, one of Bob Marley's sons. And I saw him smile. When I saw him smile now, he's my time to open my mouth. So I'm like, Lord, what am I going to say? So he might have lived on Bob's son, so I got to leave him. Yeah. Let me ask you something. What is this community known for? You know, a big man rolling, you know what I'm saying? It's about coffee. I say, take a picture. Take the picture. I say to the mom, I said, let me ask you something. I thought the church didn't deal with coffee. He says, you see the roof? Never eat. You see the people over there? They eat food. You see the monks, they eat this, they eat that. We have coffee, we trade coffee. I said, bingo. I said, when the church can trade coffee, I can trade coffee. Listen, coffee is universal. Here's what we're going to do. I said, you have a Jamaican company. I'm going to build a coffee company. And I'm going to start from the birthplace of civilization, the birthplace of Rastafari, the birthplace of Haile Selassie, and most importantly, the birthplace of coffee. So now, he said, yeah? I said, yeah. I fly back to Los Angeles after living there 7 months. I took all of the work that I put into Tough Gum, all of the artwork, all of these things. I took the lion that was on my dad's album, the Legend album, and I said, hey, nobody using this? But when I look at all my dad's album, I see this lions. It's free boy. We're going to use the lion. So I took that lion, that's from our archive, and I said, you know what? I took the name, moved the name Tough Gum, and I put the name Mali Coffee. I said, all right, Mali Coffee. Well, my tagline's going to be stirred up. Call my Dark Roast Buffalo Soldier. I'm going to call my espresso liven it up. And my decaf, I'm going to go and simmer down. So I did that, launched the product, I'm done now. And my first two served the guy for his Whole Foods and gave the Luca, and that was 2009. So that's how I got into business. Ladies and gentlemen.
That was Mr. Rohan Mali, the keynote speaker of this year Africa Symposium 2026. If you were not there this year, please mark it on your calendar. Next year, June 6th or the first weekend of June will be our third symposium. Africa is the next frontier. If you want to know what the world is turning into, check out what is happening in Africa. Things are changing. The land is blessed. We're calling on the diaspora to come back and invest in Africa, invest in our children, invest on the youths. They say in 2050, Africa will have the largest workforce. So if you have a company, if you want to invest, check out what is happening in Africa, and also check out the IPO of Dangote, as they say, because Dangote is buying up Africa. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Go to our website. Stay tuned for more things that we'll be doing. Bless you. Bye.
Link Africa.